In the meantime, signs that tax reform could be delayed, or at least the big tax cuts that a lot of folks want to see. All of it breaking here on FBN. Take a look.
And this summer or fall, it's our intention to use budget reconciliation to pass tax reform, to dramatically simplify the tax code and lessen the burdens on job creators. And once again, Democrats may try to block it, but they're not going to be able to. They don't have the votes.
You heard it first here on Fox Business News. I think you may see two bills. I think you may see a business tax cut where you could actually get, I believe, a lot of Democrats, especially if you link that with infrastructure spending. Then you might leave the second part, which is the broad-based tax reform, for another day.
All right, that was all from last week, but it broke here at Fox Business. But we want to remind you again, because we're getting more and more signs now that that is the way it's shaping up, that broad-based tax reform after the corporate stuff, the individual rate changes and all that, that could be more of a fall event or a Part 2 event. To former Congressional Budget Office Director Holtz-Eakin on what to make of that. Is that the way you think it will go, Doug?
It's one possibility, Neil, but I think the key is that we know tax reform has to originate in the House. We know there's been a plan for quite some time to pass a budget in April, to use that budget to have these so-called reconciliation instructions where they can pass things in the Senate with only 51 votes, and to put tax reform in those reconciliation instructions. Now, I think the only political arithmetic they're trying to assess is whether they can get Democrats on a corporate reform, pass it in regular order, and not have to use the reconciliation approach. If they don't have that head count, I'd expect the House to go ahead full speed with their version of tax reform, which has always been comprehensive, individual plus corporate, send it over to the Senate and see what can come back.
You know, Doug, one of the things I admired about you long before, you know, your CBO directorship days and hooking up with the McCain campaign, and all, you're very good at math, very good at addition and subtraction, which makes you stand out in Washington. So no matter how I look at these various proposals, the same applies to Democratic ones, they bust the deficit unless something miraculous is tucked in those numbers that I don't see. Almost anything with a big tax cut, and even if it's corporate reform up front, is in the near term more than likely to make the deficit worse. Before, and I'll give all kudos and bows to dynamic accounting, before more revenue presumably comes in. But I can't see a way around that. What am I missing?
You're not missing anything, and I have felt for a while that, for example, the specifics of the proposal that the president put out on the campaign is probably not something you can get through Congress, that the revenue declines are just too great. We have heard in recent weeks some, I think, important words out of Chairman Brady of the Ways and Means Committee, Speaker Ryan, and most recently Secretary-designate Mnuchin, that they want it to be revenue neutral. That's a far cry from big tax cuts. So I would not be shocked, quite frankly, Neil, if this ended up losing some revenue, but I don't see massive impacts on the deficit, particularly in the out years, because they inherit a problem so big from former President Obama that they're going to have to come to terms with in a couple of years.
All right, offsetting whatever happens is a cycle of higher rates now, which makes this nearly $20 trillion debt go up by osmosis at a minimum. So then what?
Well, I think we see in the near term the kinds of spending they're talking about is largely one-off, you know, an infrastructure program, some increases in defense that would be sustained, but there's no big new entitlement spending. They do what they do with the tax code, and I think that's an important variable. And then you see next year, and particularly the year after that, the realization that they have to come to terms with the unsustainability of the budget. And I think you have a very different mindset in Washington among Republicans who are going to have to fix that problem.
You know, I'm sure you, like me, follow a lot of the foreign press, and a lot of them were getting antsy after the president's short but pretty in-your-face, to the point inaugural address. Now with the moves he is making on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, largely Asian trading deal, and moves afoot later on to try to address or readdress or sort of renegotiate the North American Free Trade Act, better known as NAFTA. There were assurances, I'm told, made to Canada today that they should not be enormously worried about the Trump trade message. This is coming from a Trump advisor, but foreign governments are. Should they be?
I'm pretty sure they are. I think if they listened to that inaugural address, that brought little comfort to someone who's sitting in a NATO capital, But I do think it's worth thinking about some of the real message there. Some of that message is to the Congress of the United States, where he said very clearly, you know, no more politicians who complain but never get anything done. We want action. He's taking action, and as a result, he's going to put them on the spot to deliver when he says,
but
hey,
he's putting more Republicans
hey.
on the spot, right? I mean, because anything that's heralded by the Teamsters is an automatic indication to me that's not the Grand Old Party.
I would say that he's not particularly interested in their feelings. He's interested in getting things done, commit, and finishing his campaign promises. So Republicans, in some cases, are going to be uncomfortable. He's made them uncomfortable during the campaign.
That's right.
I don't expect anything to be different now.
That's well put, Doug. Thank you very much. Doug Holtz-Eakin, the former CBO director. And again, I think people should be reminded what Doug just mentioned here. Whether you like what he's doing or not, he is following everything he said he would do when he was running for president. It was a populist approach that bugged a lot of people in his own party, but this is his way of saying to his own party, I am neither with you any more than I am with the Democrats. I am a populist. Deal.